G'day, ZiggyD here with another Path of Exile guide. In this particular video I want to give you guys a very rough guide on how to figure out item value for when you're selling or for when you're buying. Firstly, you will learn how to value items better over time, as it's a combination of game knowledge and understanding the current meta game that goes into this sort of thing. You probably will get ripped off a bit in the beginning, but to make things a bit easier for starting off, in this video I'll highlight the ideas behind valuing items with some very rough guidelines to follow. It's impossible to make an accurate guide to item values because there are so many variables in the popularity of items, stats and builds, and also because individual trades can vary by a lot depending on how the two parties feel on the day or any other sort of things impacting the actual trade itself. So first, let's look at what you are looking for on valuable pieces of gear. I've done this in a lot more detail in other gearing guide videos, which I'll link to in the description below, but I'll give you a rough overview here in regards to knowing if something is potentially valuable. The exact values of all of these items are super erratic, but this will at least give you a bit of a guide to knowing if its item is potentially worth something at least. So starting off with gloves, you're looking for increased attack speed, life, resists, and elemental damage, pretty basic. Next up in the chest slot, you're looking for life, resists, and very high armor, evasion, and energy shield mods. A total of 800 to 1000 armor or evasion is considered to be fairly high, and 500 or higher is considered very high energy shield, so that's a good guideline. If you're approaching those numbers, then you know that the chest is probably worth something else if it has some good other stats on it. For helmets, you're looking for life, resists, plus levels to minion gems, especially on energy shield helmets, and high armor, evasion, energy shield mods, basically. So anything up to 100%, and then if you have an extra energy shield, evasion, armor roll on there, that can add a bit of extra value. In boots, you're looking for move speed. In fact, boots without move speed, even if they're fairly good otherwise, are usually worth very little. Preferably 20% or above move speed is the good one to go for. 15% can sell if the stats are good, if the other stats are good, but 20% is preferable. Life, resists, and high armor, evasion, energy shield. Pretty typical stuff there. For shields, you're just looking for life, resists, and armor, evasion, energy shield. On jewelry, things get a little bit more complicated, but a good sort of idea or mindset to go into when valuing jewelry is to look for defensive or offensive stats that are grouped together that make some sort of sense with each other. So for example, attack speed with elemental damage mods, or life with resists, or a bunch of spellcasting mods together is a good sort of way to approach it. When it comes to weapons, these are very tough to value, but a few general ideas are high physical damage, close to 100% physical damage modifier with another physical damage roll on top of that can be very valuable. Otherwise, you're looking for high attack speed with the base attack speed approaching something like 2 attacks per second, moderately high triple elemental damage rolls, or very high dual elemental damage rolls. You can check out the actual ranges for those elemental damage mods and things like that in the mods compendium, which I'll also try to link in the description below for you guys. And then the final thing is farming gear, which sort of encompasses all of those slots except for weapons. And that's gear with very high rarity and quantity rolls. They'll often be worth a fair bit of currency even if they don't have any other good stats. People use these items to farm easy content for currency and uniques, so the item find stats are the only really important ones. The exception to this is move speed. Item find boots should also have very high move speed to be valuable. Now let's look at some of the things that have reasonably stable values, though of course these can change a lot over time and can vary a lot between hardcore and default leagues as well, so just again use it as a rough rule of thumb. First up, you have crafting items, so high level white items with 4 links can be worth between an alchemy and a couple of chaos depending on the item and the level. Low level white 4 linked items aren't usually worth more than an alchemy, and high level ones usually aren't worth more than a couple of chaos. Quality gems, on average, seem to be worth a couple of GCP for between 10 and 15%. They tend to increase in value much faster beyond that, usually 1 GCP per percent quality after this sort of breaking point. This can change a lot if the gem is popular or if the quality bonus is good. For example, quality on chain, although chain is very popular itself, is pretty useless. It's like projectile speed, which doesn't work very well with anything that you chain. So quality chain isn't really worth much more than a normal one. Whereas a high quality freezing pulse, which gives projectile speed as well, but freezing pulse with projectile speed is fantastic, it's worth a lot more than a normal freezing pulse, which is essentially worth nothing. So the higher quality of freezing pulses will be worth a lot more and can extend, a couple of chaos per percent quality or something like that. 5 and 6 linked items. So chests are usually worth more than two-handers as a general rule of thumb. That's because they're essentially more useful to your character. You're going to be able to use a chest piece for a lot longer than a two-hander, but very high two-handed with 5 or 6 links can be worth a lot. The exception again is unless the two-hander with 5 or 6 links is a unique or a rare with good stats. These can be worth a ton. For example, if you're trying to get a Searing Touch with 5 links, it's going to be worth so much more than a base Searing Touch. Low level 5 links are usually a couple of GCP, whereas high level ones can reach into the multiple Exalt range even just for a white. So high level 6 links will be worth many, many Exalts, though the exact number depends on the demand for the base item at the time, because it's very much a buyer's market for that sort of thing. Of course, any good stats on these items can, like if the items are rare and a 6 link, can increase the value significantly. So if you have a 6 link chest that has some life and stuff on it, even if it's not the best possible rolls, it's still going to be worth a ton more. A final tip for valuing high level rares is, this one's a bit abstract, but try and follow, I'll try and explain it well, is to consider also if anything else could be rolled on the rare with an Exalt. For example, if you have a pair of boots that has 5 fantastic stats, like high life, high everything else, but no move speed, then they're not very, they're somewhat valuable because of those other good stats, but not very. However, if that Exalt were to roll move speed, then those boots have a lot of potential value to someone who is willing to gamble, or to you if you're willing to gamble. A very rough guide for working out the potential value of an item that needs to roll one more good stat is to divide your estimated potential value of the item, if it has that stat, by the chance of the actual stat you need rolling. So on the boots example, divide it by the chance of move speed rolling, which could be something like 1 in 5, and then subtract from that the value of the Exalt that it costs to roll that item, because obviously that's a significant factor in there. So that's a little bit abstract, but that's how I at least go about valuing very high level items that, if I'm either willing to gamble with it, or if someone else is willing to gamble with it, you can get a bit of a price and meet somewhere in the middle and that sort of thing. Anyway, hopefully you guys have found this helpful. As I said, it's a very rough sort of guide, some basic rule of thumbs, and it is really something that you just learn over time by trying to trade with people and getting ripped off or getting shut down, and then finding out later and the item that you bought for way too much cost way too much, that sort of thing. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.